The Dawg Day Afternoon. I am Gilles Gallant with FTN Bets on a show powered by the FTN Network. And this is my betting show. I'm going to give you my three best bets of the day for both NBA, college basketball, Major League Baseball, whatever I'm feeling that day. And I'm joined, as always, to my left, on your left, Sam DeQuan Young, or Quan for short. He is the producer extraordinaire here with FTN. And if I was to compare him to some modern producers, I'd have to say, I don't know, Neptunes, Timbaland, pre-Kim Kanye. What do you think of that, Quan? You think that's a good ranking for you?
That's a pretty high standard that I have to live up to, and I accept it. You know what? Whatever.
Take on the challenge, man.
Yeah, whatever. I got it.
Well, the one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the challenge of following the NFL over the last 24 hours, because it has been insane, Quan. So Aaron Rodgers got the bag, got paid over almost $200 million, like $150 million guaranteed from the Packers, even though right now Pat McAfee, his close personal friend, is kind of disputing and debunking some of these claims by Schefter and Rappaport. And then, of course, Calvin Ridley fumbled the bag, betting on his own team, betting on parlays, basically the do-nots of all basically betting etiquette for people who are seasoned bettors. Quan, what do you think of this last 24 hours? Which story do you think stands out more?
Listen, as an all-time Aaron Rodgers hater, I may be Aaron Rodgers hater numero uno. I am imploring all of you to go out and bet the Packers to win the NFC North because they have been the class. Like, it doesn't matter who else is in the division, what else is going on in the division. Since Aaron Rodgers has been there, I think they've only lost it to the Vikings and the Bears maybe 3 times. I can't, off the top of my head, I haven't done research on it, but as a former Lions fan, it's a nightmare because, you think you're finally escaping that, okay, we got to face Aaron Rodgers to win the division, and we're going to get the Jordan Love era. So, going into this offseason, you're thinking that, okay, he's going to Denver, he's going to Pittsburgh maybe, and now you got to come back to the terrible news that we get another at least 4 years of Aaron Rodgers. And
okay, Quan, hold on. You glossed over something here. Former Detroit Lions fan? What happened?
Former Lions. Listen, man. Last year,
you probably don't even need to explain it.
I made a vow to myself. I cannot cheer for losers anymore. So I followed Stafford out here, both literally and physically, to California, and I'm rolling with it. Anything you've ever seen from me talking about the Detroit Lions, it's false. It's fake.
All right,
fake
so
news.
just strike it from the record. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, Dawg Day Afternoon, Quan, you're going to be joining me every Tuesday and Thursday, every week at 1 p.m. Eastern on the FTN Network YouTube channel to be able to give out my best bets for each day. And I'm also going to have a special guest on every show. Today's guest, he's also going to give his best bets for tonight. Is no stranger to Dawg Day Afternoon. It's Joe Osborne of OddsShark who's going to join me in the second half of the show to break down his best bets in the NBA and NHL. Now, Quan, before we get started with the picks, I want to ask the audience this. Have you signed up yet for the FTN Bet newsletter? It gets released daily with free betting picks right to your inbox. Guys like Josh Gross, betting extraordinaire with tennis, Joe Metz with the NBA, Mike Kutry with college basketball, especially with March Madness coming up next week. All of these gentlemen are profitable in their respective sport this season, and you can get free picks from them just by signing up for the newsletter with your email. And you'll be also updated with any new betting tools we're offering, any promotions that we're running. We share interesting betting stats and trends. The link to the newsletter is right in the YouTube description at the top of this video. And if you sign up today, it's absolutely free, and it will help you with your day-to-day handicapping. So, Quan, we're going to get started with the picks here, and here's how it's going to work. I'm going to give you my Omega pick, my Beta pick, and my Alpha pick. For anybody who's not up to date on Greek, essentially the way it works is that Omega is my least confident, Beta is middle of the pack, and Alpha is my strongest play of the day. And each one is ranked based on confidence of me winning the bet. So we're going to start with the Omega pick. And the first pick is Orlando Magic at +7 versus the Suns. It's down to +6 now at some books. I would still play it at those odds and that spread. And fading the best team in the NBA against the worst team in the league isn't likely a profitable scenario long term, but I do think this is a perfect opportunity to grab the Magic in this spot. The Suns are missing their starting backcourt of Chris Paul and Devin Booker, along with six-man Cameron Johnson. To me, that's a lot of ground to make up. And if you saw it against Milwaukee in that last game, where the Suns were kind of pacing ahead, but they just kind of ran out of gas heading into the fourth quarter, and the Bucks just overtook them. The other thing that's been kind of alarming is since Chris Paul got hurt is the Suns' defense has actually regressed, and that's probably the case because Chris Paul is a fairly good defensive point guard. But they're giving up 113 points per game since Chris Paul got hurt. That's 15th in the NBA compared to where they ranked 6th with him in the lineup, and they were only giving up 105 points per game. Also, just I wouldn't use this reason as the only reason to bet, but something to consider is the Suns, they got to play Miami on Wednesday on the second game of a back-to-back. So I think that this could be a game where Phoenix potentially, maybe they mail it in a little bit. Maybe they don't try as hard if they're getting blown out, because Devin Booker does right now, based on early reports, has the potential to return to the lineup due to COVID protocols in the lineup for tomorrow. So for me, I think the Suns will want to almost have an edge on the Heat for potential home court in the NBA Finals, because right now Miami is number one in the East, and they can catch them for the best record at this pace just because of the way Chris Paul and Devin Booker are out of the lineup. So my first pick of the day, Quan, is the Orlando Magic +7 to take down the Suns.
I like it. I like the call. I think the look ahead spot. You kind of get it's playoff time in some circles, I think, and teams are still like the Suns have been playing great. Like Cam Johnson, I think it was whatever night where he went off for I think 36 or what it was. They look good without Chris Paul, and that's one thing. You see the Warriors are kind of tailing off without Draymond, and it's just those teams are gelling at the right time. And the Suns are defending Western Conference champions. They've been playing well, and you always get to that point where you're saying, okay, it's a Chris Paul-led team. Are they going to have that late collapse? But you're seeing they're playing well without him. I think finding Bismack Biyombo was something that was great for them that nobody kind of expected. And you're seeing all these role players and guys take to their positions and take to their role, doing everything necessary to help them win. And Devin Booker is going to be Devin Booker regardless. So, I like the idea of them, kind of playing to the look ahead spot, but I think that's a great call right there.
And I think just the reality is that you're just not going to get the Magic very often in a position against a team like this where you could actually feel legitimately confident, you know what I mean, that you could win this bet. Like, for example, the spread, it's baked in there that Booker and Paul weren't there, because if Paul and Booker were in the game, that spread's probably closer to -13. So I just think that this is a decent matchup. This is one of the few times this season that I'll probably actually play the Magic. So in this spot, I'm going to grab it. But again, not all underdogs are created equal. You're not going to take the Magic in this spot if Devin Booker and Chris Paul are playing as well. So, all right, now we're going to move on to the beta pick. This one is the one where I feel confident in, but just not my strongest play of the day. And for anybody who follows me, they know that I love to bet 3-point props. First prop we're going with, man, is LaMelo Ball over 2.5 3-pointers made tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. And I probably bet on LaMelo 3-point props at home like at least 5 times this season. Only once have I actually been disappointed, because Melo, he's been shooting really well behind the arc since the start of February, Quan. In 14 games, he's shooting just over 40% with an average of 3.3 makes per game. That goes up to 3.5 in home games in that span. For the season, he's averaging 7.8 3-point attempts per home game. It's a big difference in splits when you look at how he shoots at home comparatively to on the road. And 7.8 3-point shots at home per game comparatively to like just under 6. Those attempts, that's the most on the team. He's hitting 2.9 3-point shots at home, so just under a smidge of 3. And for example, played 28 home games this season. He's hit at least 3 threes in 16 of them. And my issue, I think the biggest reason why I wasn't fully confident why this wasn't going to be my alpha pick is because Kevin Durant is back. And obviously his impact offensively for the Nets is huge. Obviously Kyrie is going to play as well, this being a road game. But I'm not sure if this Nets defense is going to be enough in this spot, even though Charlotte's defense is atrocious. So if you're looking at another idea here for this game, you could probably consider the over, and I think at least 240 points are coming here. But in the last 20 games, obviously a lot of them didn't have Durant, but the Nets were 3-17. And in that span, they ranked 24th in opponent 3-point makes. They just went to the Celtics house and they were allowing almost 57% from behind the arc. Jason Tatum and just went off on them. So I think both, another thing too to consider, And again, I wouldn't use this reason as the main reason, but both teams are tied right now in the Eastern Conference standings. So for me, this game has like a little bit of motivation because they don't want to be that 10 seed, in the play-in tournament, having to win 2 games, just as the way that we're pacing right now. So I expect the Hornets to at least be sharp offensively, probably not as much defensively, but I think that bodes well for LaMelo Ball to be able to hit at least 3 3-pointers tonight against this Brooklyn Nets defense.
I agree, man. What is he? I think with 3 of his last 4, he's hit over 3. So, yeah. So that's a good call. Do they run a higher pace? I think pushing the ball is something that I haven't watched too much.
Oh yeah, no, Charlotte is their pace is through the roof. They always are. Their defense has been atrocious. So like they probably are bottom 3 in a lot of defensive categories, like 3-point shots made against them, just points per game, field goal percentage, the stuff that bodes well for a total going over, and just more shot attempts. Because that's the other thing too that I always look at when I bet 3-point props is what's the defense like. Yes, the defensive percentage is obviously important, like as far as like 3-point percentage, but you let them shoot it enough, they're going to hit. They're professional basketball players. So like if if you're a last in the NBA in 3-point attempts, but 20th or 19th in 3-point percentage, I'm going to probably want to consider the 3-point props for a lot of those players because they just have so many more opportunities to cash the prop for you, and they could still go like 3 for 9 or something like that. So the team's percentage from a defensive standpoint still stays low, but their attempts and makes are still high, kind of thing, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, is that Brooklyn in that span, like I'm just not going to buy that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are going to come in and all of a sudden teams are just going to start shooting crap from behind the arc. So those are my first 2 picks. Third pick for Tuesday on March 8th. I had to double check the date there. Days are just starting to blur together. This is my alpha pick. This is my best bet of the night, man. And Quan, we are going with CJ McCollum, over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists, going on the road, playing the Memphis Grizzlies. And you can say what you want about that trade with the Pelicans and Blazers, of whether or not the Blazers got fleeced. But for me, man, CJ McCollum has been balling since he got to New Orleans. Like, he's only played 10 games with them, but he's averaging 26.1 points, 6.1 assists, and 5.6 rebounds. For the math nerds out there, that totals to 37.8 points, rebounds, and assists. And he's fit in really well with Brandon Ingram. And if Zion comes back, for example, in the next couple of weeks, like, this team is going to be super scary in the West. Now, Memphis, I know they've been excellent all season, easily, I think, top to bottom. I think outside of Phoenix, been the better team in the Western Conference, at least the second best team. But they haven't been as sharp against opposing guards recently. That was the one thing that I just wanted to look at, is how are they playing against opposing guards? And over the last 13 games, the Grizz have given up 24 rebounds, 14 assists, and an average of 64 points to the position. And all 3 of those rank 16th or lower in the NBA in that span. Like, one of them is bottom 5, for example, in rebounds. So for me, I feel like CJ with the Pellies, like, he's topped this number in 7 of 10 games that he's played with them. One of those games was at home against the Grizzlies on February 15th, where he dropped 35-7 in the loss. The other thing, too, about CJ, his usage rate, just comparatively to when he was playing in Portland, has skyrocketed in New Orleans. And Memphis also, another thing that we were just talking about, they rank 8th in pace. So you know that they're going to run the ball and try to put up points. New Orleans is probably going to have to try to keep up with them, which just bodes well for, more rebounds, more assists, more points. More points just equals more tertiary stats, like the assists and rebounds. So that's one of the reasons why I love taking a points, rebounds, and assists prop in a game like this featuring these 2 kinds of teams. And I think the Pelicans are going to have to run and gun just to beat this team, which bodes well for CJ having a big game. So that is my best bet of the night. CJ McCollum, over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists on the road facing the Grizzlies.
You think that Vegas hasn't
shifted enough?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that he's made this transition, and I think he's been there long enough. Do you think, like, what is it going to take for them to kind of catch up to what he's doing in New Orleans?
Well, part of it is Memphis's defense. So Memphis defense, if you just use it as a full number, the way that they would create this over 33.5 or under 33.5 numbers, obviously they're going to look at CJ stats, but then they're looking at how, for a full season, how opposing guards are doing against them. And for the full season, they've actually been, the Memphis has been one of the best defensive teams in the league this season. So, and playing at home, and just the way that they get hyped in that arena. And, if Ja just starts doing these crazy highlights, it's easy for a team to just kind of give up and get down by 20 very quickly. So that's probably part of the reason why that line is what it is. But it was the same thing with Cade Cunningham yesterday when I took him over 30.5. I like to really look at usage rates when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists, because it's one thing if a guy is kind of making it happen on his own. It's another when you get a guy like CJ who has the ball in his hands the most on the team since he's been there, and they're basically running the offense through him. So just the fact that he can get buckets in a lot of different fashions, like he could go over 33.5 just on points, not even just on rebounds and assists. So for me, I just feel like this number is a little lower than what it needs to be. And I think what's going to happen is that if he goes over it again, you're going to see this jump up to about 35.5 next game when they play.
That's why it's the Alpha Dog.
Yeah, the Alpha Dog. Have you ever seen that movie, Alpha Dog?
I haven't.
With Justin Timberlake?
No. That's
all right.
He's like a war vet or something.
No. This one is like it's based on a true story, I guess, but it's like essentially where the character Emil Hirsch, who he's playing, his name is Johnny Truelove. Such a made-up movie name, but it's actually his real name. Where they kidnap this kid, and it ends up going really wrong or whatever else. But just anytime you ever said the word Alpha Dog to me in production meetings, that was like the first movie that I thought of. Anyway, something for people to go back. It's still on Netflix if you want to go check it out. Came out, I think, like 2004, 2005. Anyway, so those are my 3 best bets for today. We're going to take a little break here. We're going to bring Joe Osborne on, and we're going to have his 3 best bets for tonight. Stay tuned. Joe, welcome back to Dawg Day Afternoon. It's good to see you, my brother.
Are we on live now?
Oh, I hope so. Otherwise, we're just talking.
Brother, what's up?
Man, last 24 hours in the NFL, just been insane with Calvin Ridley and Aaron Rodgers. Did you have any initial takes when you heard the news about Ridley and or Rodgers getting the bag today?
Well, Rodgers, I don't think the Denver Broncos move made a whole lot of sense. Like, why would you go to a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert when you are currently in a division with just some absolute dumpster teams, right? You're going to be in the playoffs every year if you're a good team in the NFC North going up against the Bears, Lions, and Vikings. So the contract, record-breaking contracts are happening all the time. So no
every
big
year,
deal.
Every year.
It's kind of funny, people hate on Rodgers because of the drama, but I find it kind of entertaining. You know what I mean? It's fun and it keeps people talking. As for the Calvin Ridley thing, obviously, it's just so pure stupidity on his part. But at the end of the day, you know what? He's betting on his own team. I don't know if I have much of an issue. I understand that the conflict of interest argument, sure, and you shouldn't have done it, but a full season. And I know a couple seasons ago, a no-name guy in the Arizona Cardinals got suspended for a season as well. But I don't know. What if a guy starts himself in a DFS lineup? Does he get suspended for a year as well? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question because guys like Austin Eckler and other people, they're pretty prominent in the fantasy space now. And I'm not really sure how that works, if that's just because there's no cash involved, that maybe they can kind of find a loophole there. But still, it's just I think it's a slippery slope. So I think the suspension is warranted. But at the same time, it just feels, and this is easy for me to say from my chair in my basement, it just feels like a victimless crime. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely out to lunch on that take. But either way, nobody wants to hear about what I think about Aaron Rodgers, Calvin Ridley. They want your best bets for tonight, Joe. And when you sent me in these picks, I was very intrigued. Your first best bet is coming from the Grizzlies and Pelicans matchup. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're betting this game?
Well, I mean, automatically everyone is going to be drawn to seeing Steven Adams and Jonas Valanciunas going toe-to-toe.
Highlight
right?
matchup.
I know you've had this one circled on your calendar here for a couple of weeks, but I like the Pelicans plus 5.5 here. And this team, hey, they're going through a dramatic turnaround, and all you have to do is dig into the stats, and the numbers don't lie. And they do have some very high-quality wins over the past couple of weeks here. Take a look at some of these stats over the last 10 games. They're first in points per 100 possessions, sixth in effective field goal shooting percentage, third in opponent effective field goal shooting percentage, playing great defense, right? And they rank higher than Memphis in all of those categories. They also rank higher than Memphis in opponent three-point shooting percentage, opponent points allowed per 100 possessions, opponent turnover percentage, and a stat I love to look at when betting full game spreads, fourth quarter point margin. So are they closing games out strong? That's especially important as an underdog here. And these teams played a couple of weeks ago, and you might look at the final score and you see, okay, the Grizzlies won that game by 12, but it was much closer than that final score indicated. You know, 3 of the 4 quarters were decided by just 2 points. Both teams shot 50%. And if you're into the trends, you can dig into it, and you'll see that the Pelicans always give the Grizzlies a pretty good game here. 7-1 against the spread in the last 8 games against them. So I like New Orleans. I don't know if they can win it outright, but I think that they can at least keep this one close.
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons why I was so high on CJ McCollum. I took his points, rebounds, and assists at 33.5. I took the over because of how they've been defending opposing guards, specifically over the last 10 to 13 games. Like they were, bottom 10 in assists, bottom 5 in rebounds allowed, just to opposing guards. So, and the fact that CJ, he's done it in 7 to 10 games, I just think he's going to have a pretty big game. And he had kind of a big game against them when he played at 30 points and 6 rebounds and 5 assists. So I'm with you. I think I wasn't confident enough to take the Pelicans on the full game spread because I've just been burned a lot lately doing that. But at the same time, I think the player prop angle, I think both angles that we have here for that game, I think are fairly solid. So that's pick number 1 for you, taking the Pelicans plus 5.5. Joe, you got the Bucks Thunder circled on your betting slate here. What are you thinking here? You thinking side, total? What kind of best bet do you have for Bucks Thunder?
I'm going to go over 230.5. So styles make fights. And what type of style are we going to see in this game? Well, I think we're going to see a very, very fast-paced game. You take a look at the pace that these teams are playing at over the last 10 games, 2nd and 5th, also allowing a lot of points. These defenses are getting destroyed, 27th and 26th. And points allowed. The Bucks, one of the best offensive teams in the league, averaging over 120 points per game during that 10-game stretch. And both of these teams, man, just over machines at the moment. You got to expect high scores in Bucks games, right? They've gone over in 12 of 15. And in those 15 games, 10 of them saw 235 or more points scored in those games. Now, the Thunder, they used to kind of profile as an under team throughout most of the first half of the season. They were scoring under 120 points or under 100 points in a bunch of these games. But lately, they've turned up the pace, as I pointed out there earlier. And as a result of that, they're going over a lot, over in 7 of their last 8 games. So I think we're going to see a very high scoring game there in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has just been on a tear right now for the Thunder. If you can get his point total below 30, I would immediately take the over. In games, for example, against Utah, where a couple of games ago where they were just getting smoked and they were down by 20 points, he still had 29 of the team's 60 points. I was just oh my God, this guy is just unreal right now. And the other thing too that bodes well for your over trend is just how many 3-pointers the Bucks allow. It's kind of gross. It's one of the reasons why I've been gravitating to players who are playing against them for 3-point props, because they're they're last in 3-pointers made allowed, made last in 3-point percentage. They're bottom 5 in 3-point attempts. So if OKC kind of uses that recipe and starts just bombing from 3, you might be able to see close to maybe only a 10-point lead entering the fourth quarter, just the way that these teams score. So over 230.5, it almost feels low. It feels like it should be closer, maybe 235.5. But that's why we try to take these overs here and just make sure that we can take advantage of maybe some soft lines.
Absolutely.
So 2 picks in, you got Pelicans plus 5.5, Bucks Thunder over 230.5. Changing gears here a little bit, Joe. Pick 3, we're heading over to the NHL. little bit of puck action here. What's your best bet for the NHL tonight?
Yeah, so at full disclosure, I wouldn't say that this is my best bet anymore because there's been some developments, but I still do like it. So the Rangers, I locked them in this morning at plus 121, and that's all the way up to around plus 151 now. And the reason being is Igor Shesterkin no longer starting in net. He was kind of expected. I expected him to be in there. They're not in the second game of a back-to-back or anything. And obviously he's the best goalie in the NHL, so a bit of a drop off between him and the backup. But I still don't mind it at plus 150, man. I think it's worth a shot because a big part of this bet was fading the Minnesota Wild. They're in a tailspin right now, just absolutely unraveling. You check out the last 10 games, which is the sample size I look at, as you know, 2-10 in that span. You dig into some analytics, 31st in expected goals for percentage. So just god awful, right? And nothing special for the Rangers in that stat. Their expected goals for percentage are at 15th, middle of the pack, but that's still a pretty big gap between them and the Wild. And something else I like about the Rangers in this matchup, they're going to have the special teams advantage. They do rank higher in both power play percentage and penalty kill percentage. So I do think that they are worth a shot there, plus 151. Another underdog I like, I took the Dallas Stars plus 110. They're in Nashville playing a Predators team that's slumping a little bit right now. That stat, I'll reference it again, expected goals for percentage. Stars at 6, Predators way down there at 28th. Nashville, one of the most penalized teams in the NHL. The Stars, some of the fewest penalty minutes in the NHL. So a couple dogs there in the NHL I like as well.
Well, I'm going to have to pick up my game because this is literally called Dawg Day Afternoon. And my guest brought in 2 picks with better odds than higher odds than I ever brought in. And I'm always usually known for taking plus money. So kudos to you for living up to the mantra of the show. I got to pick up my game here. But so that is your 3 best bets for tonight. I've already released my 3 best bets for today. I'll be back on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern for Dawg Day Afternoon with another special guest who will give their best bets of the night. And if you want my picks for tomorrow and Friday, those will be available on FTNBets.com for Dog of the Day. You can follow me on Twitter at GDog5000. You follow him at JTFOZ. The man works with OddsShark, so make sure to check out OddsShark to get all of his content. And thank you for watching Dawg Day Afternoon. Bon chance.